Right, call the meeting to order, 5:33. Are there any adjustments to the agenda? Okay. In that case, I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes of November 9th.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of November 9th as presented.
Yep, second. That's been moved and seconded. If there's no further discussion, all in favor? Aye. Aye. All right. New business. Let's see. Do we want to? I guess we don't need to. I was going to say, do we want to do SeVEDS first, just so we're not.
This isn't SeVEDS.
Oh, sorry.
Peter's
That's
from
right. Wyndham Windsor.
Right,
That's right.
yeah.
No, I was. Oh, that's the allocation and connection
Yeah.
request. That makes sense.
The other stuff should be pretty good.
We just, yeah, we'll just go through it. So, application for wastewater connection and allocation, correction, Mark Zeiter.
Yeah, so Mark
37
was
signal time.
here at the last meeting and he had requested 300 gallons per day and the connection to 37 Signal Pine Road. And when I got back to the office the next day and I was looking at it and read what he has there, which is the single family dwelling, a mother-in-law apartment, and then a catering kitchen, I was like, that number of gallons just didn't seem right to me. So him and I talked, and we talked to Mike Marquis, and he was getting ready to send information to the state to get the wastewater permit up to date there, and he told me it needed to be 940 gallons per day. And I told them that probably wasn't a problem. I still wanted to bring it to you guys, but I did issue them a letter saying that it was okay because they needed that for their permit. They're like a month behind up there, so I wanted to make sure they were able to
Keep going.
keep it, yeah. So it's kind of after the
So
fact.
940 is state? That's what the state tells us?
That 940 is what the state, the engineer.
Right, no, I
figured
know,
out,
but he's
yeah.
basing, I'm assuming he's basing that on what the state.
With the state, yeah. A lot.
That's a lot. Yeah, I'm surprised. I mean, 2 dwelling units would be typically,
Well, that's 500.
it is 500?
Well, per our regulation, it's 250.
240,
250.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then maybe it's not that far off, I
Yeah.
don't know. And is he gonna, well, yeah, is he gonna meter it, or it doesn't matter? It doesn't matter to us.
Yeah, he'll meter it. No, are we sewer? No, this is sewer. No. No, there's
Oh,
no
this
meter.
is sewer?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah, this is the sewer connection that
Okay.
we approved the last one.
Right. Yeah, I was thinking.
Sorry, I
Okay,
was,
sounds good.
Like that 6-inch pipe still works?
yeah,
Think about that and everything?
yeah.
Okay, so.
So I said it was already approved. I kind of said it before the actual approval of the 940
Pending.
happened.
So what do you say, should we vote it down, just to find her? Teach her a lesson?
I was trying to help the resident out by being able
We're
to
just
get it in
making a
there.
correction.
So,
So the
I
motion
guess you
would
could just say
be
we accept
to,
the correction.
that we're accepting a correction upon recommendation of the engineer? The engineer? Yeah, okay, in regards to Mark Zeiter's application for formerly
It was formerly 300.
300, changed to 940 gallons per day.
All right, yep, I'll second it.
okay, it's
You
been
can
moved.
probably put that into a more sensible sentence.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the correction of 940 gallons a day from 300 gallons a day for the sewer permit at 37 Signal Pine Road, Mark Zeiter. Unless there's any further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, VOSHA, citation and notice of penalty.
So I believe it was at the last meeting that I handed out a notice, notification of penalty for 4 different violations that we had at the town garage. And just, I'm not sure that we said what they were at the last meeting, so I'll just briefly go over those. The first one was, there was an exit route that was partially obstructed on the back of the building. The second violation was
Electrical box.
the electrical box. We had something in front of it. It ended up being, it was a bag that had a chain in it, so the box wasn't covered, but it wasn't 3 feet away. So you could reach the electrical box, it just, something was still, yeah. And then there was a bench grinder that actually we never even used, but you guys probably knew more than something wasn't set right on it.
The rest.
Yeah, the rest. So we actually just got rid of the bench grinder, we don't use it. And then the labeling of the hazardous materials, there's a new requirement for labeling, and we were not aware of that, so that was another violation. Each of those violations, when we first got the citation, were $1,785 a piece, for a total of $7,140. After I got the violation, I called and we had an informal hearing scheduled for Monday, which was the 28th. At that point, when he found out how many employees we have, he reduced each of the violation citations to 1,020 because it's based on the number of employees you have. And then when we went through each one of them and I told him, Brian was with me, we told him what we had done to either rectify the situation or what we were working on. He reduced the total violation to $2,000 and leaving the first, I think it was the workplace labeling and the exit route were the two that he left $1,000 on each. So I had to send the agreement, we had to either agree to that or disagree. If we disagreed, we could have appealed any of the violations if we didn't agree with them. It was kind of hard to disagree with some of them because we did have a violation. So I had told him at that time that, the $2,000 that I would agree to it. I had to send him the agreement that day. We had to be willing to pay it within 15 days in order to lower the violation. So that's been done, it's been sent to him. The actual payment of the penalty is on the warrant tonight. I did call Josh about it and gave him a copy of it during the day, so we didn't really talk about it too much before I signed it, but I had to have it in by the end of the day.
I was curious, what does it mean changing the fine from serious to OTS or something like that?
Other than serious.
Oh.
It's very simple.
Common abbreviation.
Yeah.
So the other thing that we've done is Wade Mashore, who is our loss prevention guy at VLCT for our insurance company, he's coming down Friday to make sure that what we're doing with the labeling of the hazardous materials is in compliance with the new labeling regulation. And then once everything is cleared up, we can call that work safe to have them come in, do inspections. We're gonna have them do them of all the buildings and go through everything so that we can make sure we're in compliance before we get another visit. So
Sounds prudent.
that's where we are. So there really isn't any decision to be made on that other than just wanting me to make sure that everybody was aware of what was going on. We didn't have any other buildings inspected that day. Well, the treatment plant was inspected that day. They had the labeling violation, but that was issued to Simon's Operation because they're the ones that are managing and contracted to run the treatment plant. So that one was not on us.
All right.
Ready?
Good abbreviation to remember when you're disciplining your children.
Other than serious.
Would have been OTS, but.
Supposed to end here.
All right. Next on the agenda, Noyes House allocation and connection request.
I can start with, do you want me to start? Okay. So the Noyes House currently The activities barn and the Noyes house actually share a sewer connection to our current system. What this connection request is for, and you can jump in if something's not right, okay?
Sure, yep.
I'm okay. Is to separate those two and make the connection come directly from the activities barn into
Into the street, right?
Into the street, into our connection. The request actually reduces, the allocation request actually reduces the number of gallons per day that are needed, so they're asking for less, and I don't know why that is. It's the same uses, it's, I think, because one is now going from 8 to 7.
We're going down a unit.
Yeah, going down a unit, so that drops it a little bit.
But then the activities barn would go to having a unit, which they didn't previously, or?
No unit going in the activities barn.
Yeah, and I don't know on our billing system how we accounted for the activities barn. We may not have at that time. Yeah, so this is actually,
So it would be a whole new connection to the activities barn?
yeah,
Okay, so but that would end up having them be a unit
right.
when they do that.
Yeah.
So
It
it would
would
still
be
be 8 units.
Yeah.
It just would be 7.
Well, if you
7
look
and
at the
1.
second page, it talks about, so I'll just read that second paragraph. Currently, the sewer from the activities barn flows to a pump station and is pumped through a 2-inch forced sewer line into the Noyes house, where it flows into the Noyes house gravity sewer lateral. This project proposes to abandon the 2-inch force line and install a new 2-inch PVC forced sewer line from the existing pump station. And I'm not sure what that word is.
Why into the?
I don't know what that is, okay.
To what?
Into the gravity.
Could just be a why.
The existing gravity sewer lateral serving the Noyes house will remain. So right now, both of those buildings go into our system currently,
Right.
even though it's not two separate connections. So currently they have a wastewater permit from the state for an 8-bedroom unit for 15 residents and 5 employees for a total of 1,200 gallons per day. The existing actual flows are the 8-bedroom units with 15 residents and then 2 employees and 30 in the assembly area of the barn for a total of 1,305. The proposed flows are the 7-bedroom units for 15 residents, 980 gallons per day, and then the activities barn would be 2 employees, 30 in the assembly area. So those two, after this happens, would be 2 separate connections. Activities barn would have a connection, Noyes house would have a connection. I don't have any problem with the connection request and allocation being approved. I know there's no problems with the amount of flow that they want to put into the system. It's already happening anyways.
Right.
The question came up when I said that there would be a $1,500 connection fee for a new,
Sewer service.
yeah. So there are 2 things going on in this request. The first one is the approval of the connection and allocation. And then the second one is they're asking for a waiver of the $1,500 fee for that connection, which I told them I was not sure if that was possible. That was something that, because of the unusual circumstance of the way that was allowed to be connected to begin with, it's kind of, I guess in my mind, I kind of agree with them that it is helping actually the town clean that up a little bit.
Situation.
Yeah.
Um,
And also allow us, we will now charge everyone properly for what they're.
And whose responsibility, if that $1,500 were to stay, would that be Wyndham Windsor's responsibility or Activity Barn's responsibility? Do we?
It'd be part of the project.
It would be part of the Putney Landing project. It'd be Wyndham and Windsor.
Okay.
What is that fee? Is there labor associated with that fee, or is it just a fee?
There isn't, because we were talking about it the other, there isn't.
Mhm.
I mean, somebody will oversee it from Simon's, when they're there, we always make them call.
Right.
But it's,
Right.
time.
But the town and the
There'll be
highway
some time.
department, Brian might look at where it's going, but he doesn't
Yeah.
He doesn't need to be involved, like.
I mean, yeah, time, it would be time, because they might have to be there. But, we don't pay for any of the engineering or the
Right.
equipment or anything. I mean, normally I would say I don't think we can, because it is a new connection and our ordinance clearly says any new connection has to pay. But because of the I don't know how this was ever,
Well, also, I mean, who's the primary for the activities barn? It's Putney, I mean, Putney
Putney
Cares use it, right, so it's a town entity.
yeah,
So we presumably wouldn't charge a town entity, and the other one is Wyndham Windsor, and we
yeah.
don't want to discourage that. My only question is, and I'm sure these guys have figured this out, but I don't, so that's going to go directly into the main. I'm just guessing that their system, in order for it to be forced into the main sewer line, it's a much higher pressure system, and I'm sure the engineers will have done their homework on this, but, you know, all those houses that got added, including Peters and across the street, et cetera, that was a pretty complex, high pressure system, and this sounds like a pretty, I mean, it's entering a pump chamber and then going to an unpressurized line. They might want to know, and maybe they've already figured this out, but the other expenses involved may be bigger than they think they are.
Yeah, I don't, but I can certainly relay that information.
It's not really our business.
No, but they could talk to Chris Hayes about it, just to make sure that they understand. My guess is they probably have, and I might not know that right now, but I can certainly make sure that I talk to them about that and make sure that they communicate with.
It just has to be
Yeah.
upgraded. I mean, you know, I'm guessing that it's because of grade that this was set up the way it was, that they had to pump from the activities barn. But then if they're pumping into a non-pressurized tank, which is what it sounds like, then it doesn't have all the backflow preventers, et cetera. So
Yeah.
it just may be
Okay.
more complicated for the activities barn than it sounds like they're making it. But again, if Stevens is doing it, they certainly know what's going on. So I just think that's something.
Yeah, I can call them about it.
But,
I mean, when I write the letter, I can put in there too, that they need to coordinate with our wastewater operator and make sure everything's up to to the specs of our system, and, which is part of our ordinance anyways, but I can make sure I can
in
outline
order
it
to
in
be,
the letter.
yeah, in order to be pressurized all the time, because those are not simple systems. I mean, I certainly don't have a problem with waiving the 1,500, given the two organizations that are involved. I guess the only question is, are we setting a precedent that we don't want to set if we do that? You know, we could certainly do a partial, waive half of it, or, I mean, we could approach that any number of different ways. I think both of these are organizations that we want to be supporting in town, so I'm comfortable waiving it, but I don't know how you guys feel about that.
I don't have any real objections to that.
Yeah,
I don't see that really, we're not really setting much of a precedent. There's not, what else is there?
That big nonprofit coming along.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, I suppose.
Well, I mean, I guess it would be a question of, for example, did we waive it for next stage? When did they do an upgrade like that? Do we?
Well, were they already connected? I don't remember.
I don't remember.
I don't
Had
think
a
they were
connection. They were already
Yeah.
connected.
Yeah.
They were.
But they must have paid a fee at some point. Somebody must have paid that. I'm just wondering, I mean, if we've never waived it for any other nonprofit, then why would we do it for these guys? And I'm not arguing
No, I
that
hear
we
you.
shouldn't. I
Yeah.
just am not sure why we would
Yeah.
be biased on this one where we.
I think
may
the
not have
only
been in
thing
the
that's
past.
kind of sticking with me is that I want them to
It's
do
an
this.
upgrade, right? No, I understand that too.
So because it makes our life easier in the billing
Both
process.
for billing and-
And making sure we're capturing everybody that's actually.
Yeah,
So
using it.
that for me would be, when you have a building that's never been pumping into our current system, you know, whether they're directly connected or, you know, if there's another building in town, I could see setting a precedent for, if there's another building in town where we have this
Where
same
we have the same situation,
I
we
would
could
feel the
consider
same way
waiving
whether
it.
they were a
Yeah.
nonprofit or not.
Yeah.
But I totally understand what you're saying. It's just cleaner for us to know
Yeah,
who has what connection instead of these funky connects.
bump into this
Yeah.
and then bump into that.
Yeah.
And
I would just like to second what Cynthia just said, which is that this sewage is already coming into your system.
Right,
It's just, you know, which is usually not true if someone comes asking for a
as a
sewer
new, as a
connection.
new connection.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, not having been here when that fee was created, I don't know what the philosophy behind it was. You know, whether it's the liability of doing I mean, they're gonna have to presumably do the same thing you guys did, which was to do whatever they call that, a pressurized connection, you know, a
Right.
live connection.
And
whatever.
that was several properties at the same time. It was the property next
Right,
door.
right.
And Ellen Holmes across the street as well.
So maybe it's just a non-issue with something this size. but- I mean, again, I certainly don't have a problem with it, I'm just,
No, I would agree. I think that the only thing I would have concerned me is setting the precedent, but.
the likelihood of it coming along again.
Right, and then just the fact
You would
that too, this
express
does
that this is a
essentially
unique
help us.
situation that's beneficial
does.
So-
to the system, and, you know, that we're not setting a precedent, in effect. I mean,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
I mean,
This would not be something that we'd open up as an option for anybody and everybody
right,
to get along.
right.
But
I mean, here, which,
You need
and I think if we just make that clear,
Yeah, I think outlining in particular that it's actually cleaning things up for the town.
Yeah.
that
I
it's
think it's-
existing
Is-
and beneficial.
That's kind of overrides that precedent theory.
And remind me, the activities barn will, is the parcel getting subdivided?
The parcel is not getting subdivided, it's gonna be a
Okay.
condo association between Putney Cares and Woodbury.
Okay, so there'll be two separate entities, but still on a remaining single parcel.
Correct.
Because that would be the other argument, is if it's two separate parcels, it should be two separate things, and that's sort of a part of this process.
Maybe point that out again in the
Yeah.
description of the action taken.
Yeah.
Somebody want to make a motion?
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
Let's boil that right now.
we're making a motion to waive the,
We're making a motion to allow an existing connection, I mean, to create a new connection
So you're,
and
so
to
you're,
waive the fee,
so you're
right?
approving the wastewater allocation and connection request.
Change, basically, isn't it?
Yeah.
or upgrade, can we refer to it
or upgrade,
as
maybe,
to allow separate connections?
Well, I mean, I think at this point right now, because we've had the discussion and that will be part of the minutes, the basic motion is you're approving the connection and allocation request and waiving the $1,500 fee. I don't know that you need all of that other stuff in the motion.
Okay.
And is it technically an allocation request, or is it an allocation and connection
Well, that's what the name of the
alteration?
application is.
Yeah, no, I know, I'm just wondering, because
If you're actually reducing the allocation that,
yeah.
so yeah, you're
So it's
approving the
A
reduction.
new connection for the activities barn is essentially what that is. Okay, yeah.
So did you get that in a motion?
Yeah, so moved.
And is it seconded?
Yes.
So it's been moved and seconded to accept the application for wastewater allocation connection and waive the $1,500 fee associated with that connection. Does that sound about right, Laura? If there's no further discussion, then all in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. They changed the spelling on Noyes House from one page to the other. It's a little confusing. But they have it right on the first
Right,
page,
first
so I
page
guess
is
that's what
right.
matters. The cover page is the one. All right.
Thank you.
Certainly, thanks for
I think
coming.
that was, the house Noyes House is still on a septic connection when the barn was started there. There wasn't
I don't know. Yeah. All right, next is the SeVEDS annual request. So this is presumably just so they don't have to petition.
Yeah, and I did talk to Kristen at BDCC. She wondered if she should come to the meeting, and she couldn't come this week. And I told her I would bring it to you guys anyways. They had just given us an update not too long ago. And this has been an annual request this time of year. Should we include it in the budget? Should we put it on the warning, or are we going to request them to petition to get it on the warning, is basically what the question is. We've never included it directly in the budget, even though it's been funded for several years now, but we have always put it on the warning without a petition.
Right. Going on.
So that's basically, I mean, she will come and give you guys an update. I told her maybe it would be better if you guys were willing to put it on the warning to come more towards the end of January to talk to you about an update so that we're prepared for town meeting, instead of coming now to try to, you know, I think they were just here not too long ago, so.
I'm just wondering with the question of whether it should just be included in the budget versus a warning, is that something we should discuss at town meeting, or is that sort of overkill? We could discuss that if we put it on, if we warn it and have it as an article, we could discuss that for the following year.
Yeah, well, how people feel
Right,
about just including it.
exactly.
Part of it.
Yeah, I mean,
Because if
because
we're gonna
it's
fund
been-
it, if we're gonna fund it ongoing, then there's no reason
To keep.
to warn it
Yeah.
every time.
Yeah.
Unless
I mean, I
there's a
think
specific statutory reason.
There isn't
we
a
should,
statutory
but-
requirement. I think that it generates enough discussion at town meeting to warrant it being a separate article. I mean, even though people are starting to be familiar with it, they don't keep up with it
Right.
enough to know what's going on. So if it's just in the budget, we may not get a chance to talk about it. And it is a pretty big chunk of money
Yeah.
for an organization
Yeah.
that, you know, I kind of think of them as like Wyndham Regional but it's still quite a bit more money than those organizations are asking for. So
Yeah.
I think it warrants an article. I think putting it just in the budget is a little presumptuous on our part, but like you said, we could talk about that.
We could talk about it
Yeah.
and just see what the feeling is. But I think you've got a valid argument as to why it,
Yeah, I mean, it
should be
generates
warned
quite a bit
on-
of discussion.
yeah. It's also, it's well organized and productive now, and I assume it will continue to be that.
Yeah.
But you hate to fund something in perpetuity that,
Right.
some executive director leaves and all of a sudden it's not the same
Yeah.
game.
I mean, I think
Um,
making them petition for it's overkill, but I think a warning article
agree.
is.
Yeah.
That's the process.
So
Yeah,
it's okay to tell her that we'll include it as an article, as we always have, but that probably end of January, beginning of February, we'll ask them to come as kind of a town meeting prep, give us some information. Yeah. Okay.
Does this?
Do we need to have a vote on this or not?
Well, no, because you're gonna vote on the warning.
Warning, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, right, okay.
You'll have time to take
Yeah.
it off if for some reason you change your mind.
This appropriation they're suggesting for this year coming up, is that an increase over what we?
think
It's the same.
No, it sounds close. I was just-
Yeah. All right. Draft budget.
So maybe, I mean, Anne's welcome to stay and listen to the entire budget discussion, but she is here to, there are 3 different requests that I got that I wanted to know if you guys wanted me to include them in the budget. One of them was the Southern Vermont Watershed Alliance, which we talked about not too long ago, and it has to do with the water testing, water quality testing. And it was the $650, and remember I told you I had called
Yeah.
Marie Caduto at the state,
Yeah,
and
she recommended.
she was very
it.
supportive
Yeah.
of what they were doing for work and recommended it. So Anne saw that on the agenda and thought maybe she should come to speak to it. I,
I don't have any official information, I can
Yeah.
just say what we did last year, which you're probably already aware of in terms of the water testing that was done. They started without us, testing at Sockett's Brook where it goes into the Connecticut near the I-91 bridge. Then that was very, very high. It was like, of all the sites tested in southeastern Vermont, that was the highest E. coli counts that they got. We were testing for a whole number of things.
Right.
Nitrogen, phosphorus, turbidity, salt, which is conductivity, and the E. coli, and then blanks and other tests that they do along the way to make sure their lab is doing correct work.
So did they test above the wastewater treatment then?
They
too?
did then test above, and that was also high.
Yeah,
It's
that's what I-
sometimes higher.
That's what I was wondering.
And then Tom Prunier, who's just volunteered to coordinate the water samplers if you go ahead with the program and we start sampling water, decided he just wanted to know where the E. coli, were coming from and what was going on. So he sort of on his own tab, and I chipped in a bit, did 8 different sites, starting at the culvert, which had an E. coli colony count of 4.
That's good.
Very good. And then as you come, like into the village, it gets worse, but everything was fine. And then I think below the paper mill, it started to get bad again. It's sort of like from the bridge, the Route 5 bridge on down. But even, the wetland with all the wildlife in the wetland, Sandhill, I think the Sandhill Road Bridge was 168 colonies. Or, it was really still, within the parameters of that are given.
Beaver Pond reality.
Yeah, you would think, but not that bad. And even, the wetland side of the upstream side of the Route 5 bridge was okay. But then you got down from there.
So do
and
they
it's
have,
messed up.
that's, clearly doesn't have, E. coli shouldn't have anything to do with the paper mill, certainly.
No,
Did they
makes no
have
sense.
Yeah, did they have any insight as to why that was happening?
No, and also it's also you sort of have to test over time, a number of times to really know.
Too small a sample.
Yeah, but definitely something's going on. We don't know quite what it is.
When was this? I'm just wondering if it coincides at all with, putting down liquid manure on farms.
Oh, I don't know. I can get the date for you. I think was it in October?
yeah,
it wasn't
very long ago.
It wasn't very long ago. We were sort of hoping things wouldn't freeze before we got out there.
But as far as this organization, which is what we're wondering if I
That's
should include in the budget, this will help because they'll help you do testing for
Because they'll
them?
do more testing.
They'll do more testing?
Yeah, and the town itself can decide the sites that it wants, and that I think could be a discussion in the future.
Makes sense.
And you might want to pick up like the Great Falls in East Putney, which is another, much used swimming hole.
Yeah.
East Putney Brook is used almost as much as the culvert.
Yeah.
And so that's a discussion we can have. The E. coli tests are only about $26, something like that. But when you do the whole shebang,
That can add up.
yeah. So I think they should be supported. I think we should figure out the sites that we think are important for solving the mystery and also for checking swimming holes. It's possible the school might chip in something for the Portal Bridge where the kids are constantly in the water. If they can manage it, if we're, So that's sort of, I think there's another discussion to happen about how to lay out the sites that the town's interested in.
Sounds good.
So it sounds to me like there's a consensus that we want to put this in the budget. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be-
That was basically,
And that doesn't have anything to do with the Vermont Association of Conservation Districts, that's a separate, because you have that on here as a new funding request also, on the.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
And then, I just don't know I just want to hear what the Conservation Commission,
Um,
they are.
Oh, it's,
Now,
sorry.
You want
Is-
some water? I can get you some
No,
water.
I got a minute right here, but-
is there any reason we would want that to be funded as a social service agency versus, it's not, but
I don't think so. It doesn't fall within what a
into
social
the,
service.
okay, that's fine. I just Yeah. Okay, so who's the Vermont Association of Conservation Districts?
Okay. It's part of the Vermont Rural Fire Protection Task Force, and what Tom told me was that they are an association that will help fire departments. We've gotten grants from them before. So I think we got a grant from them maybe to put a dry hydrant in. So it's not really, sorry. It's about water conservation, and it's about, it's more fire protection related things than like maybe what you're thinking of.
Conservation.
Yeah. So Tom said that in the past we have gotten grants, and by helping fund this, which is $100, in the future, if there's a grant that we want to get,
Might be helpful.
might be
That much
helpful.
easier.
Yeah. Not that we've given, we're going to get more, but it, you know, it's nice to try to
Support an
fund it, so,
entity
yeah.
that's doing good things, yeah.
So that's basically, and it's $100 grant. I mean, $100 payment.
He's almost,
Annual,
Yeah.
yeah.
he's almost, seem like they fall into line a little bit with the hazard mitigation plans. I mean, if if you're looking at water conservation,
Yeah,
especially if it's drying, and then the water quality,
yeah,
I don't know,
yeah.
If there's any way that
Yeah,
fits
no,
in.
That's true.
budget-wise, to any of that stuff.
And you might say the same thing about the American Red Cross too. I don't know what we're gonna hear about that.
Then we've been getting this one this is $1,000.
Don't change.
Which we have not, we haven't been giving to this, right, Laura? No.
Now, it would seem to me that potentially would fit into social service, but no.
I guess I'd have to really look at the definition of that, and I can do that. The way that our social service policy reads, I'll have to just make sure the definition, I mean, yeah, but
It's
it's,
providing services, but it's intermittent, it's not, yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know. It just
Yeah.
seems sort of logical that it would be, but it might not fit the
Yeah.
definition, so.
okay, so the $100 one, I'm gonna
Yes.
put in the budget.
Thumbs up.
Okay.
When you say social, do you mean the 3 tiers?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
And so on the American Red, let me revisit that.
Yeah.
And I'll come back during the social service discussion about that
Sounds
one.
reasonable.
Okay. All right.
Thanks, Ed.
Thank you.
All right. So, draft budget.
Okay, so this, I'm hoping to be able to explain.
Yeah, just make this perfectly clear. will you?
I'm gonna make it so clear.
That we could get it all done tonight?
No.
Okay.
Go back to bi-monthly meetings.
So remember, this is just a very rough draft, and I'm gonna hand out the highway department first and just give you some basics of what is different from what we've normally done, okay? Because the highway is probably much easier than the general fund. So, the highway, the two things that are different in the highway this year is we have added a position, which would be a 6th highway worker. And in the highway budget, there's 30 hours a week that person would work for the highway. It would be an entry-level position. The other 10 hours a week that we're proposing is actually gonna be in the general fund budget
For maintenance.
for maintenance and maybe mowing, shoveling, that kind of thing, and then maintenance of our buildings. So that's one change in here. What that does to some of our line items is obviously salaries go up. Because you don't know who this new employee is, you've got to put some cushion in there for whatever health insurance they might need. And then the other big change in here is contracted services, both winter and summer maintenance. We normally have $10,000 in each one of those lines, and that is on page, I don't have the page numbers on here.
line 101.
Yeah, so line 70
70.
and line 97. In the past, we've had $10,000 in each one of those lines, and that's used for subcontracting larger jobs. You know, if we need an excavator, put in a bigger culvert, that kind of thing.
What was the second line item you said? 101?
97.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And if you notice on line 91, that is where the 20,000, well, it's 17,000, but that's where the money we kind of transferred from those two lines over to line 91. And what the reasoning is behind that is that we are looking at a 10-year lease on an excavator to have our own equipment. We talked to Westminster about doing a shared purchase of an excavator, but what we wanted and what they wanted was not quite the same, and they've already gone ahead and purchased an excavator. But the 10-year lease is actually, I can't remember where we got who the company is that we got the estimate from, but it's not a borrowing, so we don't have to have a special article. The funding for it comes through a line item for the payment. The lease agreement has to say that it's contingent on refunding on an annual basis because we're a municipality.
So we could cancel the lease.
Yeah, but it's not like the traditional lease, like I lease my car kind of lease. We actually own it at the end. It's not, we don't turn it in and get a new one. It's, you know, you're still purchasing it. So obviously this is not set in stone, this is a draft, but we wanted to start the discussion for you guys to think about tonight. Brian will be back on one of the nights that, you know, he does the highway presentation to discuss this further. I've gotten, one of the things I was not sure about was, how do we ask the permission to buy this piece of equipment? And because it's a lease, and because of that language that needs to be in the lease agreement, it's not a borrowing that you're telling, you know, the public that you have to do for 10 years into the future.
And you've
So it's not like the
done
traditional borrowing.
the financial end of this too. I mean, that's $170,000. That's a reasonable price to be paying for this piece of equipment.
I have not dug into that personally. This
Yeah.
is Brian's, that's why it'll be
Yeah,
important to
we
talk to
should know
him, yeah.
that, definitely. You know, the other thing I would say is, you know, I certainly, strictly anecdotal, but I certainly heard plenty of gabbing about the idea of the town purchasing an excavator when they had that one for a while. And there's a lot of people who are not in favor of
Yeah.
that just because they don't think it's necessary.
Yeah.
And I don't know enough.
That's why I'm a little bit leery about how do we, you know, I mean, if it's a line item, obviously we can talk about it.
Right.
And if people say, look, we don't want you to spend $17,000, we just move the money back over to contracted services
Right.
and we don't buy the equipment,
And it's
you
the
know,
same amount of
so.
money. So there isn't anything else in contracted services that,
We did leave
Minus that.
3,500, which is 500 more than what we normally have for the two line items.
Right.
Just for contingency if something,
something.
yeah, that if we need to hire somebody to do something.
Like a special.
So it's basically a wash as far as the budget's concerned, but it's a big purchase.
right. And when we do contracted services, is it specifically, I guess the better question would be, how much of the time is it actually for an excavator and how much of the
Is for
time
something
is it
else,
for
and that's a
something
great
else?
question. I'll have Brian make sure he's prepared to answer that question. Yeah. I mean, we're
Any
lucky,
specialty equipment that, you know, in order to get something done.
Right, which, I mean, if 96% of the time that's an excavator, great.
Right.
But if 10% of the time it's an excavator and this thing's gonna sit around and we're paying
Right.
$17,000 a year
that's
for
why
it,
we
and
were
I'm not a
really
big
hoping
fan.
to work
Yeah.
with another town, because it is a piece
It's
of
a lot of money,
equipment.
right, it's gonna sit.
It
Yeah.
is a piece of equipment that is not used all the time and could easily be scheduled to share.
And Dummerston,
People just
Don't wanna.
seem to want.
yeah,
Brian really wanted to work with Westminster, and we just couldn't.
get it to work.
Yeah, I mean, it has a lot to do with the different, and Brian wants a bigger piece of equipment because we have people that can really run it. I mean, we're
Right.
lucky, we have some really talented equipment operators in our
Right.
department, so, I don't know, I mean, it's one of those things that we've
We'll have a
been talking
discussion
about,
about
and
it,
I said, let's
yeah.
just see. So but that shuffle can easily be made if we decide that that's not what we
Go back
wanna
the
do.
other way.
And it doesn't change the bottom line, really, but $500.
Yeah.
So that's the other big thing in the highway. I have not put anything in here for capital purchases yet. I still need to work on the capital plan. So as of right now, the highway budget is up 3%. A lot of that has to do with a new employee and some, Right now,
And
there's
just as a reminder, we used to have a halftime employee
right.
that we eliminated
Two,
overtime
yeah.
3 years ago,
Yeah.
maybe. So for all practical purposes, what we're
Yeah.
adding is a halftime person in addition to what we historically have had.
Yeah, and you know, we've been talking about it for the last 2 years, and we are going out to bid for the sidewalk, for the next portion of the sidewalk, which will be built next summer, so that's
Right.
adding.
More work,
So we
yeah.
kept holding it off, waiting to see if that happened, and the other thing that this does is it eliminates the call-in plow person.
Right.
Because we do have some contingency for a call-in person to help with our road crew.
Right.
When
And
there's
not
just
that-
too much
Not that
snow.
we might not occasionally need that.
No, but we
Still,
haven't
but-
really
right,
needed
yeah.
it too much
Yeah.
since I've been here.
Yeah,
And if we have a sixth person,
then it shouldn't.
you know,
be.
and yes, they're budgeted 30 hours for them and 10 for, but if there's a snowstorm over and over in 1 week, obviously
Right.
they're not gonna do building maintenance that
Right.
week, you know, we're not gonna worry about that too much, so.
Do we currently pay anyone else for building maintenance?
No. No, as a matter of fact, the administrative assistant changed the toilet seat the other day.
That's good. How'd that go? Good.
So,
Because what about lawn maintenance?
well, oh yeah, that's another big thing in here. It's the money in here to buy equipment for lawn maintenance for this person.
Okay.
Um,
Will that reduce then what we
It will
contract
reduce
out
what we
for-
contract out, it has nothing to do with cemeteries though,
Right,
just, yeah.
Just for the library?
Town hall.
Town hall, library, fire station, pool,
So nothing. Just-
yeah, and the green space, the sidewalks, which I have them do very rarely now because it does cost us a lot of money,
Yeah.
Mhm.
but we do it.
But if we had the, so what would we be purchasing, a rider mower?
We would be a mower, we would need a trailer, and we'd need a small used truck, because we don't have a truck that, an extra truck just laying around to, so that's on line 142. Which, like I said, once I go through the capital plan, some of this might change, because we might find something else we need more, I don't know, but this is where we're at right this minute.
What,
Brian told me that was more than enough for what we needed, but
out of curiosity, are there enough plows for 6 people?
yes,
Oh, there are, okay.
yeah. Okay, so, well, and I'm just gonna give this to you, we don't need to read it. This is a job description for
Is this the one you had online?
a new
Yeah.
highway, no.
No.
Did I send it to you?
You emailed it to us.
Yeah.
Oh, here, have it again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't quite sure why you were emailing it to.
Oh, because I emailed everything yesterday.
Yeah, no, no, it makes sense now. I just was like, so what's this highway person?
I was-
Does it make sense?
I
Well,
was gonna
you just kind of slipped that in there.
Just add an extra person.
Okay, so any questions about highway?
Yep.
No. Okay. So, general fund, what I have been doing is working on 2 separate budgets. This first budget that says option 1, which you guys can all bring this stuff home and really read it.
memorize.
Yeah. This first budget is pretty basic to what we're used to doing. It's everybody, and just as a starting point, I did a 1% raise, cost of living raise for people, because right now the COLA is like 0.03.
Is it?
So I rounded up. That's a good rounding, that's a good math lesson, right? From 0.03 to 1.
We weren't,
Wait a minute.
I thought we weren't gonna do,
For all the other employees.
we weren't gonna do it for
The
the
two salary
that's
people, we
right,
weren't
that's
trying
right,
to do
yeah.
it.
Which, of course, now, as you probably know, that FLSA thing
Yeah.
has been put on hold, so
Yeah, but I'm,
you've already told, that discussion's already been had, I'm assuming.
been had,
so-
they know what they're, yeah.
Mhm.
Which actually it ended up being pretty much even with the comp time.
It doesn't,
Yeah.
yeah, no, it doesn't make that much difference,
Yeah.
no, it's just since I heard that they had put that on hold, I
Yeah,
was like,
and the other thing we don't know about that new salary, even though the judge has it on hold right now, if it goes
Could
through,
go
will it be
either way.
retroactive?
Right.
Will they go back to December 1st? So yeah, we
No,
just.
it's probably not worth
Yeah.
the risk.
Okay, so this option is just our basic general fund budget. Not much has changed. It's with all the staff staying the same. Treasurer, clerk, assistant clerk, everybody's just the same. So this is the standard. And I did a second budget, which is this option, which restructures everything a little bit. And the reason that I'm doing this is because at this point right now, I'm not quite sure what's gonna happen in the treasurer's and clerk's office, if Anita's gonna retire or not. So I had to work on two different budgets. So when you look at them side by side, there's in the FY18 budget proposed column, if you see a highlighted gray cell, it's because that's one of the things that's
That
different
changes.
between the two budgets.
And how many of those are there?
Not many.
Not huge.
Will that just be in the option too?
No, if you look at, yeah, they both have them, yeah.
Town management.
So what I would like to do is really, because option one is just pretty much what we do every year, I want to talk to you about what my thought process was behind the second budget. And you're gonna have to bear with me because I'm gonna kind of read it so I don't forget anything that I did. Because this has been, it's been fairly complicated to try to keep both of them going and make sure that I haven't missed anything, so.
We included this too.
So the second option, it's a new way of funding the town treasurers and the financial offices for the town of Putney. The option provides for a continuation of an elected town treasurer with a small stipend and to hire a part-time bookkeeper for 15 hours per week. As with any proposal, it should be reviewed, amended, and discussed before it's approved. I have not talked to anybody besides Laura about this. So obviously I'm looking for feedback and any suggestions that might help us work through this. So like I said earlier, the reason for this is that Anita has expressed that she may retire in March. I'm not sure, both for the town clerk and treasurer position. So currently we have an elected treasurer as required by state statute. The town treasurer is an elected position and the only requirement for being elected to any local office in Vermont is that the person be legally qualified voter in the town. There's no prerequisite that a candidate for a position of town treasurer have accounting or bookkeeping experience. However, such knowledge and experience is crucial for the town treasurer to perform the job effectively. We will continue to have an elected treasurer unless the town creates a charter that states the town will appoint instead of elect. This process is tedious but can be done and should not be totally off the table as an option. The difficult part of managing finances for a municipality with our current structure is that if an elected official is not completing the task on time or correctly, the select board and town manager have little ability to do anything about it. Many towns have faced the following question: how can we keep an elected treasurer position and also have authority over getting the job done correctly? In researching what other communities have done, I found that it's been favored to keep the position of treasurer, mostly because of the charter change being costly and a lengthy process, but with a very small stipend attached to it and hiring a part-time bookkeeper, finance director, or shifting duties to an administrator, all positions that are hired by the select board and town manager. To show everyone a visual of the financial tasks to be done, I have attached two lists, one showing financial tasks by type and the other by who completes them and how often. And this list here is what we currently do. So it lists it by what we do daily, weekly, bi-weekly. It lists who does it in the current situation that we have. The proposal also includes a vote to have the town manager act as tax collector. This would become part of the town manager's position, but the actual task would be delegated to the new bookkeeper. The primary role of the treasurer would be to...
You're already doing.
I'm delinquent tax collector.
Oh, delinquent. Right. Sorry.
The primary role of the treasurer would be to sign the checks or smaller tasks needed that were not covered by other staff members, and the bookkeeper would take over the financial tasks that will segregate duties from other financial staff duties, making the internal control strong and providing oversight to a very important part of our financial system structure. So on the back of this, it's a job description for a bookkeeper, and basically what my vision is of this position is that he or she would work closely with the finance director, who is also the town manager, the administrative assistant, and the town treasurer. The ideal candidate would have a degree in accounting, finance, or equivalent experience, proven bookkeeping experience, hands-on experience with online reporting and banking. And the reason I put that is because a lot of the responsibilities that I've listed relate to someone that can take us forward in making sure that online reporting, everything's done pretty much online now, and it needs to be somebody that can really gonna take that under their wing and be responsible for it. They need customer service skills, high degree of accuracy and attention to detail, basic understanding of governmental financial statements and fund accounting, and familiar with NIMRIC fund accounting software, Excel, Word, email, and website management. One of the things that's proposed in this budget is money for a new website, and that the company that I've talked to, they have the ability to allow us to take payment through the website for different things. So I would really like somebody that's familiar with that to be able to just kind of set that up. I mean, Laura and I just don't have time to work on finding out how that all works. And really and truly, online management or taking payments or really should be done, not so much taking payments, but the online management of our banking and online stuff should be segregated from me, because I'm the finance director. I oversee like the final step of it. Laura does, the input of stuff, so that would give it a good segregation.
Which is a requirement? No, but it's best practice.
Best practice.
Yeah.
This person's responsibility would be to collect taxes, and I would like them to be able to do it through several methods: direct debit, credit and debit cards, and then cash receipts, obviously, with people coming in. Prepare the payroll and accounts payable warrants, just as Anita does for you guys now. Print the checks, and then the treasurer could come in and sign them. We would like to start direct deposit, so I'd like somebody to be able to process the direct deposit of payroll. Process federal payroll reporting and Vermont payroll reporting and withholdings online. All of the reporting for payroll, 941's yearly stuff. Post interest and process interest due notice for late payments. I'd like to start putting financial information up on our website, and I would like this person to be able to do that. And set up the online financial processes like I was talking about before. There's a place where you can go in and pay for stuff online.
Do you think that we're likely to find somebody this qualified for a 15-hour-a-week thing?
Well, I figured that might be a question. I know that when I was first starting out...
You're sort of putting all the things together.
Yeah, I mean, when I first started out in this, of course I was treasurer in Westminster, but when I first started out on my own doing bookkeeping, I worked for Putney Family Services, I worked for...
Yeah.
The meeting, I worked for Yellow Barn Music, so I did their bookkeeping, and I did 10, 15 hours a week for each one of them. That gave me my full-time
job.
Yeah. So like I said, this is That's what option 2 has in it. The difference between the bottom line of the budgets is about $12,000 less going this way. The second option. And I should say that the option, this second budget that I've created with this 15-hour-a-week bookkeeper position includes 40 hours a week for the town clerk.
Which is what it currently is or not?
No, well, between the 3 people that work in the office,
It's.
was it 62 hours total? Is what they're open.
Right, but
That
there's
doesn't
80,
mean-
but there's 80
yeah.
hours of, because it's basically Barbara and Denise split it full-time, right? And Anita's full-time. Close, not quite.
Yeah.
Well, Anita's 22 hours town clerk, so you have
18 and then 18 treasurer,
20,
right?
22 and 18,
Yeah.
or 16, or town
So for
clerk
the
hours.
town clerk position, Anita's 22,
Right.
Barbara's
18 is Denise,
16 technically in the budget, yeah.
so that's 20, 40, and then Barbara's 20. So around 60 total.
Not including the treasurer.
Right.
What's the treasurer's posted? It's not-
18.
It is, so, right, so it's close to an 80, it's close to
Right.
2 full-time equivalents.
Right. But what I'm proposing is that whoever the town clerk would be,
Right,
would actually have a 40-hour position as town clerk.
Clerk,
And then
right.
20 hours for the nothing changes with the administrative assistant, or the assistant town clerk, or whatever, I don't know what Barbara's position is.
right.
But nothing would change with that. So,
And then still the treasurer is separated out from the, I see.
right,
Yeah.
and then the treasurer in this particular budget has like a $1,500 stipend a year. And then the bookkeeper I put in at $15 an hour for 15 hours a week.
And talk a little bit about the process of doing away with the treasurer's position, if that was something we were interested in. I mean,
Well, I
just
don't
what
think we- I don't
does
think-
the charter thing, what's entailed? Why is it costly? Why is it time consuming?
Well, because you have to get a lawyer to help you write up a chart, because we don't have a charter.
Yeah,
We would have to write one up, so I'm assuming I wouldn't, a lawyer would have to do that,
and that
so.
would be specific to the treasurer position, or is it like writing a town charter and?
I don't know how detailed it would have to be, or if it just talks about that, I don't know, I haven't explored it that much. The process is lengthy because you vote on it, and I might say it complete,
Right.
you vote on it, but then the legislature also has to
Has
vote
to
on
approve
it.
it.
Yeah, so it could take a whole cycle and a half, or,
Help me understand when you're creating a charter, exactly, what does that mean?
I can't really answer that intelligently.
I would say it's for all practical purposes, the equivalent of a set of bylaws
Yeah,
I see.
of just, structure for how
Mhm.
the basic functions go.
yeah. And I don't know if the charter can be as basic as we follow all state statute, and then this is one section that we,
Right, adapt for
Yeah.
I mean, it would.
it might be able to be that simple that
And
it's, yeah.
presumably, most of it is statutory, I would assume.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
but who knows?
With the
Because
treasurer,
everything
yeah.
we do is by state statute
Well,
unless
with
we
the
have a
treasurer it
charter.
is, but also, but just for a town-wide charter, it
Gotcha.
would probably, the majority of it would be statutory too. I don't know.
Yeah, and that's
But-
probably why Putney has never had one, because we just use state statute to
Right,
govern,
we
to
don't,
guide us,
we
yeah.
don't really need it, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I guess what I need to know, and I don't know how this decision is going to get made, I need to know if I should just continue with the 2 options, or is there a point where I can stop updating 2? And maybe, I know that I've put, I did, invite Denise to come, and I see Anita is here, so I don't know if they have, I have not sat down and talked with them. They-
Denise is sick today.
Oh,
too,
she
so
is.
She probably.
I knew she wasn't here, but I didn't know why.
Yeah.
So if you guys wanna, I don't know how to move ahead without having a conversation with the people involved, and that I haven't
Right.
been able to have a conversation with the people involved because I don't know, they're not sitting down with me to talk to me about it. So I don't know if you guys want to take the reins from here and try to figure out, or if somebody else has another suggestion or another way to go about this, and then you guys want to vote on which way we're going to present it to the town, I'm open for anything.
So none of this, we, the select board, can make this decision without voter input, is that correct or not?
You have the ability to present a budget
That includes,
right. Either, well, you have an ability to present, that doesn't mean that on the floor,
there isn't gonna be either something else or this would go one way or the other.
yeah, I mean, on the floor, you could present one budget, you could present budget one, where everything's pretty much the same, cost of living increases, and somebody on the floor say, no, we don't wanna pay this position this, and we want you to do this. I mean, that could always happen, or
Right.
vice versa, the other way around. You could present this one and somebody say,
Right.
no, we want things
We
to
want
stay
it
the
to stay
same.
the same, right.
Yeah, I mean, that's always, but it has to start with
Well,
you guys.
I guess.
But you have
right.
I don't wanna say control, I hate that word. You have the oversight of the budget and how you spend the money and what you're presenting to the people.
And we don't, and we have the ability legally to change the treasurer's position from an 18-hour-a-week position to a stipend position. Okay.
I mean, if somebody wants to work 18 hours a week you have control of the money.
Right, no,
Yeah.
I understand that, I just, we don't wanna do something, and I'm
No, I
just
totally
assuming
get it.
but clarifying, we don't wanna do something that we're, for all practical purposes, not allowed to do because the treasurer or the town clerk has to.
As far as I understand, and from all the attorneys that I've talked to and all the other town managers I've talked to.
Should be.
Yeah.
As long
And-
as we maintain that treasurer
And
position.
from reading
in
statute, it is the select board's responsibility to maintain the finances of the town. And it's the treasurer's responsibility to sign the checks that they're ordered to pay and deposit money and invest money. Those are the things I can find in statute that are actually required by that position. I do have a list here of other towns that have, I mean, like I said, I reached out to some other towns.
Various different
Yeah,
models.
so, like the town of Winhall, they have an elected treasurer, but day-to-day bookkeeping functions and tracking of finances has been taken on by the town administrator. Enosburg Falls, they have an elected treasurer. It's largely figurative with a modest stipend, spends around 1 or 2 hours a week reviewing payables, payroll. They have a director of finance and other staff that does the financial work with bookkeeping duties. Manchester elected treasurer takes care of distributing payments, managing town investments, does not get involved in day-to-day bookkeeping. Finance director does the payroll and AP and other financial tasks. Town manager is tax collector, but has delegated that duty to these other people. Weathersfield has an elected treasurer, takes care of distributing payments, managing town investments. They have a staff accountant that serves as finance director, and they also have a part-time employee that does accounts payable and payroll. And then Dorset, same thing. They have a bookkeeper position with a small stipend for an elected treasurer. And then obviously you have towns that have elected treasurers that do the gamut of everything I'm talking about. Then you have some that have appointed treasurers, their charter says they can appoint. I believe the town of Brattleboro is one that has an appointed treasurer. So there's a range of it, but these were the ones that I found that were grappling with kind of the same question that we have as to what to do.
Yeah, my biggest concern with a treasurer, an elected treasurer that isn't sort of a significant job is we just have a harder and harder time filling elected positions. Are we gonna find somebody who's willing
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's not an unreasonable stipend, it's some money.
Yeah,
But it's just hard to find people who are gonna do
yeah.
that kind
I
of
know,
task, so I don't.
I called
don't know.
Westminster because I know at one time, and it's not this way now, but at one time, their hired bookkeeper was also their
I was about
elected
to say,
treasurer.
right, is that a?
I wondered
Yeah.
about that too.
Which,
Yeah.
which was kind of strange, because I was like, well, what happens if the bookkeeper's not doing their job?
Not oversight, right, yeah.
Can you know, you guys
Slap
get.
yourself in the wrist.
Yeah, but they're not doing it that way anymore. They've kind of segregated duties differently up there, so that's not one that I put on the list because they've changed the way that they.
I also, you know, I don't think this is an unreasonable way to approach it, to start with, if we choose to do this. And then if it becomes problematic, then you explore the charter option if it's an issue, you know.
It kind of, I mean, the option too kind of seems to me, particularly in this day and age, as things are becoming more and more
Technical.
technical, electronic. I mean, I struggle, you know, and
Yeah.
I consider myself,
Leave it to the capriciousness of the electorate?
it seems like this is the direction that things will be going. I mean, I wonder, I mean, it might be
You know, I
prudent
kind
to
of
start looking at.
was, I was trying, when I looked at it all, and I have been grappling with this I've been just trying to figure out who does what now, and, you know, what piece are we really missing at this point? And it's these things, the stuff that I don't want to be responsible for, all of the online passwords and information, and I'm comfortable with it. So
But it's not, right.
it's
no,
kind
not
of,
your
you know,
job.
we kind of default to me, or Laura's comfortable with it, but we
Well-
shouldn't be doing it, not because we shouldn't be doing it, it's because all of a sudden now we're talking about two people that have oversight over it, when there should be more than.
At least.
Yeah, I mean, as finance director, I should only, at the end of everything being done, should be the oversight to that.
Right, right.
And,
No, and I think, that, you know, the other thing that goes with that is the fact that right now, we have a town manager who is also the finance director. Is that always gonna be the case
Right.
going forward? I'm not sure.
Right.
You know, that, you know, you're well suited for that, but we may not find applicants if and when
That
you
have
were to
that
choose to
same-
do something that would be able to do that. So this would be a way of minimizing the impact of that
Yeah,
at
I
the time
totally
that
agree.
there might be a transition. So, well, I think we would be wise, if nothing else politically, to have this discussion with the
Yeah.
folks who the discussion needs to be had with. And whether that is something we do as a group in a meeting or separately, and I've started that. But I think that, you know, you are, I think, doing a right and good thing to try and figure it out, but as you have pointed out, you don't, it's not your job, so you don't know exactly what's
well, I mean,
involved.
it's
so-
my job to create the budget, but it's not my job to.
Right, no,
Yeah.
but you also, since you aren't doing those jobs, you
Right.
know, is 15 hours a week for a bookkeeper sufficient?
Yeah.
You know, is the 60 hours a week for clerk sufficient, you know?
Yeah,
You know, those are things that the clerk and the clerk's assistants would be better suited to answer than you, so we should probably start with that.
yeah, I totally agree. I do know that, and this comes from 20 years of doing this and training people to do this, that there is a lot that can be streamlined that cuts the amount of time
Right,
that it takes to do something.
yes,
Whether people agree with me or not, maybe a different story, but
Right.
I've done it, I
Right.
know it can happen.
Right.
So that's the only thing I want to say about the amount of time that it takes to do some of the things.
yeah, I mean, I think that we would, if we're gonna make a change like this, because I think one of the concerns is that there, not so much, I don't think with the treasurers, but with the town clerks, is that there just aren't enough hours in the day kind of thing for the amount of work that needs to get done. I think we would probably be wise if we're gonna make a change to err on the side of being generous with the amount of time allocated to it, and a year or two from now, if it becomes clear that those things have been streamlined,
Well,
you know.
I think the same thing holds true with the bookkeeper position.
Right, no,
We
I
might
agree.
find out that 15 hours is too much.
Right.
We might find, it might be, because if you look at this, there are a lot of things on this list, but there are a lot of things that are only done like once every 3 months.
Right,
So we may, but during collection of taxes time,
right,
that's a different story.
right.
You know, you
And-
gotta
and
be
how
here.
does- And how does that work?
And how does that work?
Can
And
you-
I get all
yeah.
that, and that's gonna have to be, it's just like my job, it's just like Laura's job, it's just like anybody's job in here. There are certain times of the year
Right.
that you are
Crunch time.
overloaded,
Yeah.
and there's not enough hours in the
Yeah.
day to get anything done.
Yeah.
And that's where I think that working as an office and cross-training and making sure people can help when that happens is what
Plays a
we-
big role.
It plays a big role,
Yeah.
and it's, you know, we do pretty well in here, I think, with helping each other out, so I don't think that that's an issue, but I think that there's a lot of value in that, you know, when Laura's out, I do the payroll, when I'm out, there's things that she can do, you know, I know right now you know, payroll had to be done and Laura was gone and Anita was here, she could do it, so, you know, there's a lot of that already, so
Yeah, no, I.
we wanna
I
keep
just
that
think-
going, but I agree.
I would agree, but I think that, you know,
Yeah.
if we're creating a budget that allows
Yeah.
for leeway in how things are approached in a different scenario,
Yeah, so.
we'd be wise to be generous as opposed, you know, I mean, if you look at, even, you know, even if we were to call it a half-time position,
Yeah.
you know, in relative terms, that's a very small slice of the budget. You know, if
Yeah.
we were to say, you know, it really, for at least a year or so, it's really gonna be, for the clerk's position, for example, it's really gonna be 80 hours a week. That's really. what
Yeah, and
we
that's,
need.
that's why it started at, so this budget has 40 hours, and I put up to, and I did it at $18 an hour, so it's kind of like 40 hours up to 18, depending on the experience. I
Right,
mean,
right,
town clerk is an elected position, and if you get somebody in that doesn't have a lot of experience, there's training involved, there's things that are involved, that person probably shouldn't get the $18 an hour.
but is that determined, the salary is not predetermined?
You can, when I talked to the league, they told me that you can have an up to
Scale.
scale, but you have to budget for that top scale.
Yeah, and then how do you determine that when the person is elected?
Yeah, I know.
I just think politically, that sounds like sounds like a tricky position.
Well, they're telling me
but-
that the select board can set the hourly rate.
I believe it,
Yeah.
I just happened to
Yeah.
won't be here that day when Stephen Scott said that.
I mean, and I did 18 based on the fact that I think there's
Sort of
somebody already here.
a
that-
realistic reality.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's perfectly
Yeah.
capable of doing the job.
Yeah.
and Hopefully she would want to do it, and,
Yeah.
but, you know, in the 20 hours, I just use that because Barbara,
Because that's what it is.
because that's what it is,
Right.
and then the 15 is equivalent to what's
Close.
already being
Right.
done, so that's the
Right.
starting point, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely.
I would just be tempted to add to it as opposed
Yeah.
to trying to keep it too tight.
The only thing
And then
is
if we
that you
can
have
chip
to-
it back later.
Well, that's the
great.
hard part, though. I would,
I
yeah.
I hear you, but,
And I do believe that there is some time savings and some things that
Yeah,
can be
no,
done, so. But like you said, I haven't had the chance to sit down with anybody either to find out if what my thought process is even close to what, I mean, I think that when you're starting with a budget that has pretty much the same hours that are being worked right now, it's gotta be pretty close to what hours,
yeah.
yeah.
So I guess, you know, in answer to your question of how long do you need to keep doing two budgets?
For now. I
For
don't-
now, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
You know, until that conversation can be had and some of that.
Yeah, and the next time the next budget should be a little cleaner. We got the insurance rates today. I need to plug in the social service stuff and then, like I said, the capital. I know we're getting a dump truck this year, I believe, but I think the only other thing that I was thinking is to start looking at the capital plan and put aside money for specific projects. Like, we know we just replaced a roof on the fire station. this route, you know, really
What
kind
the
of saying,
timeframe is,
okay,
yeah.
we're gonna have to do this in 15 years. Let's
Yeah.
just start building a budget that
Yeah.
you put X amount aside each year
Yeah.
for this specific project.
Include
Yeah.
infrastructure capital as
Yeah,
opposed to.
which we haven't been doing, so,
In addition to
Yeah.
vehicle, yeah.
so,
No, I think that's a good idea.
so that's, this is the financial tasks and who does them, so this goes with that
I got this,
kind of explanation of, you know, and these
And
are.
this is statutory, or this is,
No,
what
this
is
is
this?
just what has to be
Oh,
done.
this is what, okay, so this is current reality or a best guess at current reality kind of thing?
Yeah, and
Okay.
Now, out of curiosity, I know it's just statute, when you get, you know, people, oh, that's fine. People are really elected, whether it be for 1 year, or 2 years, or 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Is that statute how long they are? In other words,
Um,
could you change?
it's 1 year unless you vote for it to be 3 years, I think is the way that it reads.
I see, okay.
For which? For
For
clerk?
Clerk and treasurer. I don't
Really?
know.
Oh, I thought, because we do it as a 3-year, right?
Right, because I think at one time we voted to have it be a 3-year.
Huh.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what I read the other
It
day.
sounds possible. I mean, as it is now, it's a 3-year.
Right.
So
Yeah.
unless we were to want to alter that.
I would hate to see that.
A
Mostly
1 year
because I've
thing.
been an elected official before and having
Right, I
to
mean,
every year worry
other
that
than
you're.
Stressful,
Yeah.
School
yeah,
boards
absolutely.
will often have, you know, two
Yeah.
One
positions.
altering,
And,
yeah.
and 3 one-year
Yeah.
positions.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
like, you know, like the town clerk and the treasurer, they're pretty highly paid positions, and if it's every year, that person has to worry about somebody running against them every year. Yeah, I mean, I've been in that position before
Yeah.
where you know,
Oh.
it comes to election time and you're like, oh boy.
Right.
I hope,
Petition day, yeah.
yeah.
Well, I guess I'm just, the only, and one of the reasons I ask is if we did go, kind of like you're saying, it's new territory, if we did switch to a bookkeeper type person, and even if it's a stipended position, if you changed it to a year, if it turns out that this stipended person is
A disaster.
a disaster, at least you have, you know, you're
Some
not,
recourse.
you know, you have something
Yeah.
like that. And I
You
don't
mean the
know.
stipend treasurer
Yeah,
position?
the treasurer.
Yeah, you know, because, you know, I mean, I'm not sure, it doesn't sound like the duties are doing.
Yeah, I have to say, it's gonna be really hard to find something for that person to do.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the hard thing is gonna be getting somebody to come in and sign checks
Twice
when
a
they
week.
meet.
Yeah, once a week. Yeah,
Yeah,
no, I
so-
agree.
But I think there are people in town that,
You
I
know,
think there
with
are.
a stipend like that, that's not
Yeah, I
unreasonable.
think there are people in town that would be willing to do, I mean, I can think of a couple people off the top of my head that would.
Yeah, I
and-
agree.
And it would also give another set of eyes to what
Yeah.
the rest of us are doing,
Yeah.
you know, so.
No, I mean, I think my concern is that it goes the course that the auditors have gone, but I don't think it,
I don't
yeah,
see that happening,
doesn't necessarily
no.
have to, especially since there's a ongoing requirement of signing checks, which
Yeah.
puts something concrete that, well, you have to come on whatever day
I
that
mean,
is.
I'd go
'cause-
do it for
because the checks have to be signed.
$1,500 a
Right.
year, I'd go do it in the town I live in, and
Yeah,
I don't have to attend meetings or anything.
yeah. All right.
So that's what I've
So-
been up to, that's where we're at so far.
Good. Well, we'll continue conversation.
I did, on the agenda, there is a spot for you to discuss with Anita, or, well, Mr. Denise too, any personnel issues that they have related to all this, so,
Yeah,
at that point, you guys can. I did not create a financial report for this week.
okay.
The only other thing, if we can just talk, I mean, I'm kind of skipping over stuff, but the December meeting schedule,
Yeah,
supposed to be every week.
yeah.
The only thing I might, December 14th, I have to go pick Emily up at school, possibly.
Well, why don't we see how the first 2 meetings go and
Okay.
see where we are? Does that sound reasonable? You know, and if we can bail on it.
Well, it'll
great.
be one meeting, it'll be next week's meeting.
Yeah, the 28th, I'll be out.
Oh, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong month.
Yeah, So we'll see how next week
See how it goes and see what.
I mean, if nothing else, the 14th is the library that wants to come, you guys could probably do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
All right.
These, and I'll get the listers because they're the executive session for the possible.
The first one.
Yeah.
So, we need a motion to enter executive
They're
session,
like three little mice.
Church mice.
under Title I VSA 313, pending or probable civil litigation or a prosecution to which the public body is or may be a party.
So moved.
Second?
Been moved and seconded to enter executive session, and we're actually gonna have, I think we'll have 2 executive sessions.
Possibly, I don't know.
The second one is also Title I VSA 313, so we'll just be in one executive session, but ongoing for 2 things. The appointment or employment or evaluation of a public officer or employee, provided the public body shall make a final decision to hire upon a public official or employee in an open meeting and shall explain the reasons for his final decision during the open meeting, all of which we would do. I'm guessing neither of these involve any decision-making tonight. Is that
I would, no.
correct? So we would, what we typically do, and you may be familiar, but what we typically do is you can go and then we will inform you of any actions or decisions that were made during executive session.
You're not doing anything about old business tonight?
No.
Okay. So if you have to
So,
go.
moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So we're entering executive session. Thank you.